Hey guys, this is Cerebellum and I'm here today with a little bit of a special replay video because this is going to be one of the only repeats of them. We're going to be doing a Shadow Shaman game, and of course I did a Shadow Shaman game of my own recently, and one of the only replays of myself playing that we've uploaded. And also this one I'm going to be going into a bit of some different stuff than usual. Less about basics of the hero and more a little about team composition and laning and rotations and stuff like that. So it should be good. And the reason I am doing that is that's kind of what I see deciding this game. It wasn't so much, faults on behalf of our Shadow Shaman player here, Kaksaka, I believe it is. He sent me a nice little, instruction on how to pronounce that, so I hope I got it right, but else I won't sweat it. In any case, this is a captain's mode game. So that's also a little bit different from usual, and let's take a look at what they've done with it. The Radiant side here, who's the guys we're rooting for, of course, are doing something pretty standard. They're doing a Trilane over here with an Anti-Mage, a Bane, and of course our Shadow Shaman. And we're doing a Mirana mid, that's pretty normal, and a Bristleback offlane, that's pretty normal. But what's gone and happened is that the opponents have decided to be a bit tricky and switched their lanes. They're also running a Trilane, but it's going to be an offensive Trilane, so we've got try down here, and they're doing it with a Treant, a Witch Doctor, and a Luna, and that's pretty bad for our homeboys down on Radiant. This is something you do not want to see when you're running an Anti-Mage, and yeah, that's really bad. But I'll get into that in a little bit. But first, we're gonna see that we have a Viper here mid, also pretty standard for the other team. They actually already have their level 2. We are a little bit into the replay here because I wanted to be able to show the lanes, and a Darkseer offlane. So the Darkseer versus the Bristleback offlane is pretty good for the Darkseer. There's pretty much no chance that the Darkseer is going to be able, the Bristleback is going to be able to kill the Darkseer. That is just not going to happen ever. Like he just can't. There's just no way, no way. And Darkseer in lane against any melee, as I talked about in the last video, because of this Iron Shell, it's kind of good, maybe not super good, but kind of good. It's probably actually super good. So he's going to be able to harass the Bristleback for free, pretty much make it very difficult for the Bristleback to go in for last hits without taking damage. Of course, he can't pull his back towards the Iron Shell and take last hits. That's going to be very difficult. Actually, because of the way the Bristleback works, I'm just going to nerd into the details a little bit here. Because of the way the Bristleback ability works, it takes the direction... It counts the damage's start location as the character to who it belongs. So if it isn't like an illusion or a minion or something, it's going to be the Darkseer. So that is, if this thing had an Iron Shell, it would actually count the Iron Shell damage as coming from the side, because the Darkseer is up here. You follow? So if Bristleback is standing here, he's hitting down here, and there's an Iron Shell right on this creep he's hitting, he's actually taking it to his back because the Darkseer is up here. So you can do stuff like that. That's pretty neat. But still, this lane favoring the Dire because, Darkseer free farm, not really something you want. Darkseer is also a much more high team fight impact hero than the Bristleback. That's something else I want to talk about in a little bit. In mid here, this is pretty even. Mirana versus Viper is pretty good. So this is not, I don't think there's anything wrong with running this lane. Aside from, it's mostly the team composition down at this lane I'm really not super happy about. So the mid lane should be pretty even. It's gonna skew towards the Dire's favor because of something else I want to talk about, which is the rotations. But the real problem is this lane down here, and I think the opponents have just been... I think this is just a case of being outdrafted, really. The opponents realized what was going on. Maybe the Anti-Mage was maybe picked a bit too early. Actually, we can just go back and see that real fast. Nope, the Anti-Mage was actually the last pick. So they just went ahead and went clever. They last picked their Viper and then went with that mid matchup instead. I think we were about this far into it. Yeah, looks right. Looks really right. So, the thing with Anti-Mage is, compared to someone like a Luna, he's a much more passive hero. He's a much more passive carry for by far the majority of the game. He really wants space. He really wants to be able to farm up. And then he just becomes this kind of split pushing and ganking nightmare once he hits the late game. He's sort of a really late game carry, sort of really doesn't want to fight until he's like very close to like suddenly like has 4 slots, which is like, you know, Boots of Travel, Battle Fury, Manta Style, and one other item, and then he's good. But it's sort of hard to run him in a pop, and certainly our Shadow Shaman was solo queuing here. Certainly, you know, trying to run him in a pop, I think is really difficult, because, you know, you're gonna have to force it into the late game, and that's something they're gonna not be able to do here. As you can see, like, there's only 30 minutes left of the game. That's not even enough time to get to the late game, so there's that. We also have a bit of a replay box, so I'll just skip back a little bit. Looks better. Okay. No, it doesn't actually, but let's see. Yeah. Anyway, okay. So they have the Answer Mage. He can't fight now. He's got his right click. He can flee. That's that's what he can do right now. That's Answer Mage's stick. He's gonna level up his spell sheet. Level 2 is gonna give him 26% extra magic resistance. So he's basically good at not dying in the early game. That's what he's good at. And what we have otherwise here is 2 guys who are very good at setting up kills if they have someone else to provide damage. So they have a Shadow Shaman with shackles. Shadow Shaman's big strength, we are gonna talk a little bit about the hero I'm supposed to talk about here, is that he has 2 really good disables. So that's one of his strengths. Of course, heroes are complex, so let's say that the main attraction in the very early game is these 2 disables, which is to say the 2.75 second shackle here is super powerful. It's so powerful. It also does a bit of damage, and then there's the hex as well, which becomes super powerful in the late game. And it's decent this now. The thing is, these 2 spells have a range of 500 and 600. I believe it's 500 on the shackles and 500 on the shackles and 600 on the hex. Or maybe I'm wrong about that actually. I do have the Wikipedia page up. I just checked this, but yeah, okay, it's actually worse than that. So it's 500 range on the hex and 400 range on the shackles. So that's very little if you're used to playing like a Crystal Maiden like I am. The Crystal Nova can actually hit at 1100 away. If you play the Kiro, the Ice Path can hit at 1100 away. And you know, it's just, he's very range dependent. He actually likes a setup stun to just get in and land these, because, you know, he has to be very close to people to land them. And he doesn't have that here. Like Bane is the same way. The Nightmare also has the same range. It's like 500 range. And Fiend's Grip isn't much better. Once he gets that, that's like 650. So these are quite close range. Yeah. They do have, like, one thing they've got going for them is that they have the Bane Mirana combo. So Mirana can shoot this arrow, and if it hits from far away, you get a super long stun. You can get up to a 5-second stun. Usually you get like anything along the lines of a 4-second stun on an isolated hero is a guaranteed kill. And so what you usually do with Bane is you go in and you Nightmare someone, and then Mirana can set up a really easy arrow if you do it right. And you can kind of do the same thing with the Shadow Shaman, because if you can kind of sneak your way in, land the shackle, you can land a free arrow, and then you get a guaranteed kill. But you only need one of these setups, and the thing is, Mirana's in mid. So Mirana's in mid, which means she has to rotate out of mid, giving free farm to this Viper in order to get kills. And that's exactly what we're gonna see happen here. She's gonna rotate down here. They're gonna get 2 kills in this lane, which I'm not sure should be able to happen, but it does. And you know, that's worth it for this lane. It helps the Answer Mage out. It helps these 2 supports. It's kind of bad for Mirana, because she's not going to be able to farm. She's going to be a little gold starved. She's going to get good XP for it. She's not going to get very much gold unless she gets the last hits, and the last hits really should go to the Answer Mage probably. And that's also going to leave this Viper with the farm. So even though they're going to get up to 4-1 relatively soon, we're going to see that they're not actually ahead. They're more or less even with a 4-1 score, just because they've been giving up so much farm. In part because the Darkseer isn't being contested even remotely up here by the Bristleback, but also because the Viper's been getting free farm mid. So one thing I think they could have done here is instead they could have run the Mirana as a support. This is something you can do. She can be run both as a core and a support. Very versatile hero, Mirana. And then run the Shadow Shaman as the mid instead. What this is gonna do is it's gonna put Mirana and the Bane in the same lane, which is good. You want that to happen, because then they don't have to rotate to set up that combo I just talked about. And it's gonna leave Shadow Shaman in mid. And I like that for a few reasons, but mostly because he's the one capable mid that's left. Like, Answer Mage could also have gone mid. That would also have worked. Like, then they had Mirana and Bane and Shadow Shaman down here. Yeah, that would also have been good. But let's take a moment to just The last thing I want to discuss before we go into the replay, and I know I've been just sitting here talking for a long time, but this point is really important, and I think it's something you really need to think about when you draft. And that is, where's your damage coming from? If we look at the other team here, we have a Darkseer. We just looked at a Darkseer game, you guys should be familiar with it. Iron Shell is a pretty good damage dealer, and Wall of Replica combined with the Vacuum is a fantastic damage dealer if you can do it right. So they have obviously a good nuker in Darkseer. Really good nuker. And Viper. Viper is just a really good right clicker, really good poison damage, and also really resilient against magic damage and harassment in general. Like, you do not want to be a harassment reliant hero in mid against Viper. That's not good, because he can just kind of trade with the corrosive skin as just automatically, and if he lands a hit on you on top of that, that's just not good at all. So he does a lot of right click damage, and he does a lot of damage over time, and he also reduces attack speed, so he's really good, and also likes to fight relatively early. He's not a late game carry at all, but he's really good at the mid game stages if you can get a good start. So he's also got good damage. Witch Doctor. Witch Doctor's got Maledict. Maledict does a lot of damage. It's a little bit of a complex ability. It adds the more damage that's taken during Maledict, the more... Okay, Maledict, you put it on someone, it's there for a while. The more damage they take from other sources while Maledict is on it, the more damage the Maledict is gonna do, so that's a good damage ability. And he also has Death Ward, a pretty huge nuke, and it does physical damage, which is pretty good for a nuke, because then you can't BKB out of it or anything. And it's, you know, just also a pretty capable damage dealer, probably along the lines of the Shadow Shaman, I would say. Really similar in terms of damage. And the Paralyzing Cask actually does a good bit of damage, like it... 8 bounces of 150 damage is... What's that? It's about 1,000 damage, I think. No, it's actually 1200 magical damage. It's also not bad, like it has a 14-second cooldown, you might get it off twice in a fight. So yeah, he's also a pretty capable damage dealer, and of course Luna is a really good damage dealer once we get into the mid and late game. She's got a really terrific nuke in Eclipse. I did a video on her. She's got a really good right click once we get into the mid game. So they've got space of damage. The only guy they have that can't really do damage is the Treant, and still the Treant has, you know, this right click that's at level 1 here. He's doing 100 damage because of Luna's aura in one right click. And even though it's slow, even though it's hard to hit, that's 100 damage in right click. He's by no means... He does do some damage. He should probably have taken this sheet at level 1. That's a really good one, though. He does have a Darkseer he might want to protect in the offlane, so that's that. Darkseer, one thing I might have forgot to mention in the Darkseer replay is that he really leads that surge to get safe, and you want to level Iron Shell level 1, so at level 1, if you're up against a Darkseer, try to kill him at level 1. If you can kill him before he gets to level 2, it's huge, really good. But, you know, if you can't, then it gets exponentially harder. Okay. So the problem with the other team is Bane isn't a fantastic damage dealer. He doesn't have anything remotely approaching a right click. He's got Fiend's Grip, which does like okay damage. It's like 500 damage in magical. It has a huge cooldown, so it's not fantastic. Brain Stab is a fantastic damage ability. It's pure damage, so it doesn't get negated from anything. But it is, you know, it's only like one target, not fantastic. So he doesn't contribute much via damage. Black can contribute much via damage, but he needs like the engagement to drag on, and he needs the time to do it, and you know, squishy enemies to do it on, and the Treant really kind of makes it hard for him. So he can do damage, but it's sort of circumstantial. It's kind of contingent on him getting a good start and getting into the fight right, and his opponents reacting poorly. Yeah. Our main guy, Shadow Shaman. It's got Ether Shock. This is one of the better non-ultimate nukes in the game. It can do a ridiculous amount of damage. It does like 320 damage on 7 targets at level 4, which is just stupid. Like, this is just a monstrous amount of damage. But of course, there's only 5 heroes to hit. Yeah, so if there's minions, he can do a lot. But it's a good nuke. It's basically what I'm trying to say. And then he has the Smash Serpent Ward. This is a fantastic pushing ability and a decent teamfight ability. It's not... I think it's worse than, say, the Darkseer's Wall. I think it's worse than Death Ward. But it's pretty good. Like, you can do some damage with it, and it's physical damage. As I talked about with Death Ward, it can be blocked by BKBs. So it's pretty good. Like, there's some damage to be gotten in in Shadow Shaman. Not like you can't count on him. You can't just pick him and think, oh, I'm good on damage. Mirana does decent. Like, she has the Starstorm. It's a good damage nuke. And then she has the just her right click tends to become good, but only once she has a few items, of course. An Anti-Mage. And this is really the problem. It comes back to this Anti-Mage that just doesn't have any damage. Like, he just doesn't have... Like, he gets this attack modifier. It's a unique attack modifier that burns mana and deals some of the mana that's burned in damage as well. But he won't have that until level 3, and it's really not that good as a damage ability. It's more of a late game thing where you can kind of drain it. Once you have a really sick attack speed, you can kind of drain people off their mana and then mana break them and kill them. But that's not going to happen for a while. Like, that's not going to happen for like 10 minutes or so. So he's not contributing any damage, which means that they don't have any damage. Like, before level 6, certainly they have almost nothing. They don't have the ultimate from Bane, they don't have the ultimate from Shadow Shaman. They have pretty much a Mirana for damage. That's it. And then maybe Bristleback. The rest of them can't really deal much damage. Certainly not if they want the disables, and both the Shadow Shaman and the Bane is gonna spec up the disables because that's kind of what they want to do in the early game. So yeah, what we're gonna see is kind of what happens when you get outdrafted like this, and when you're outgunned like this. So let's just see the last hits, because this is really important. We're gonna see they're gonna be pushed back to the tower. This is actually pretty good for them, because this is where they're safest. Even though the Anti-Mage is taking a bit of damage, he does have a stout shield. He's gone for the kind of greedy in terms of not having very much regen build. And we're seeing the other guys are definitely looking for a kill here with their lineup. And this, this is just, normally what you would look to do is go forward and try to land some harass like this Bane is doing. But that's just, against this is sort of super precarious. If they don't know that Trilane has living armor right now, but that also makes it sort of pointless to do harass, because this Trilane has so much heal that they're just going to be able to recuperate it even if a fight occurs. He should have taken Leech Seed, because this is a super good level 1 spell. This is just 28% movement speed slow in 4.5 seconds, and it does a lot of damage. It pulses 6 times, so it's like 150 damage, which also heals everyone around you, every allied thing around you, for the 150 damage. So it's a lot of healing and a lot of slow and a little bit of damage on top, so really good. He's just gonna focus on Denies here, it looks like.
Illusion.
But yeah, they're just, they're getting a little bit of farm. They're getting, Anti-Mage is actually getting really good farm for the situation here. Go. Arrow's gonna come in, hit on the tree. They're gonna be able to kill the tree and the Witch Doctor. So, that looks good, right? That looked good. But the Mirana is at 5 last hits, and the Viper's now at 13. So what are we actually seeing on our growth graph? We're seeing that the Dire is actually ahead on gold, and even if we let it tick up a bit... Oh, I have it on player perspective. Yeah, it's just gonna line out like this. They got ahead 200 gold here, and the price for that 200 gold is that level-wise, Mirana's level 4. She is now a level behind the Viper. Viper is just over level 5. She is just over level 4. So she didn't get the solo XP. They split all the XP. There were 4 down here, so 2 kills split 4 wise isn't gonna make a lot of stuff. So this is better for this lane down here, and worse for the Mirana. And that's actually gonna slow down their damage a lot. Like, the Mirana is their best sort of damage by far until the big ultimate from Bane and Shadow Shaman come out. Then they really have to rely on this Mirana for the damage, and they just really can't. And they didn't get the Luna. That's another thing. They didn't get the hard carry. She's still farming away. They even, like, the lane pushed up, so she's not even missing any farm because she's right under this tower, and she, they can't go in and gank her. So while, good rotation, they kind of had to do this. It just kind of sucks so bad for Mirana.
Perfect.
And now, you can definitely go harass this a bit. Yeah, so they're just gonna push it back over here again. That's pretty good. Like, this is the best you can hope for in this lane. that you're kind of just tucked in under the tower, and they can sort of look for fights when they want to. Bane opting to use his damage reduction in Feeble here to make it harder for Luna to last hit. But if we go back to the last hits, go Missed Arrow. This is a failed rotation, which is catastrophic, because pretty much a catastrophe, because this Viper would have had free farm for a while. Should have chosen to go for it. Instead, he went here, and they're trying to get the drop on this Mirana, and I think they're actually gonna succeed in it. Yeah. So there's a kill, really big kill. And your Mirana not having the farm mid there for a while. It's also something you don't want. Like, there's a lot of you know, a lot of not very skilled players like to just harp on to the mid that they should do rotations and they should, you know, help you out in lane. Like, it's like sort of working from the assumption that every game the mid should at some point rotate to one of the other lanes and kind of win the lane for them. And that's not the case. That's not the case at all, because what you're kind of doing is you're saying, okay, we need this other lane to work, and for that we're gonna sacrifice the mid. That's what it means when you rotate this early. Like, we're 6 minutes into the game, and Mirana's rotated twice and died once, which means the mid is effectively lost. If we see, she's got 11 last hits, not even counting the death, she's at half the last hits of the Viper. So that's a crushed lane. That's Viper winning the lane quite convincingly. The Anti-Mage is doing okay, or pretty well, but if we look at the Darkseer as well, he is at twice the last hits, actually just over twice the last hits of the Bristleback, so he's also crushing his lane. And the only one on this entire team doing decent is the Anti-Mage. And the Anti-Mage is the last person who's gonna get online in this game. He is gonna take so long to get online. So definitely I think these rotations, they're necessary, but if they could have been avoided at all, that would have been the better option. So I think the Shadow Shaman so far has done pretty decent, but he's not got an easy job in this lane. He's got to get close to initiate, and you know, Shadow Shaman really wants to fight early on. You're not a defensive kind of dude. See, if you had a Dazzle, if you had a Tree, if you had Lish, that's a much more defensive support. That's a much better support to have in a lane like this, because then, you know, the status quo kind of benefits you a lot more. But for Shadow Shaman, you really want to use these abilities to set up kills early on, and they can't hope to go in on this. Like, they're just gonna get wrecked by, you know, the Witch Doctor, and the Tree is just gonna be too much efficiency early on. Yeah, oh, well, I say that, but the Tree is not leveling his lead sheet, so that's yeah, not very efficient.
Oh, look at it go!
Denied.
So, yeah, they're also blocking this camp, which is clever, but they're pushing so much that there isn't really any room to take these camps at all.
Illusion!
Dire's middle tower is under attack. Radiant's bottom tower is under attack.
So yeah, they're gonna rotate the 4 down here. I'll rotate the Viper down here again. The Mirana's trying to roam top, so this is a very roamy Mirana. Not a very farmy Mirana at all. I think she's actually roaming way too much. That's kind of what's happening in this game, is the one hope they have of getting kills in the mid game is this Mirana having decent levels, so her nukes are good, and getting up like a Yasha or something to just bolster her right click a little bit. That's just not gonna happen.
Denied! Here, catch!
Allies disappear.
Good use of Moonlight Shadow there. They're gonna use this to initiate. And again, we're seeing these rotations from Mirana are working somewhat sometimes. But it's kind of, the thing is, these have to work every time. So it's one of the points I wanted to make is, we see here, this is the situation I'm talking about. They're 4 and 1. 4 and 1. So if you're just looking at that score up here, you're thinking, they are ahead, they are crushing this game, they are winning it so hard, except they're not. Radiant ahead by 250 XP. This is nothing at all. It's like less than a creep wave ahead. So yeah, Not impressed. Not impressed. And gold, they're actually behind. They're behind 1,000 gold. So that's not super good. Maybe it needs time to update. Nope, they're pretty much behind 1,000 gold. So, despite being ahead 3 kills, they're still, you know, and they got the first blood even, so they're still behind. And the reason is that this Darkseer is 44 versus the 22 of the Bristleback, and the Viper is 36 versus the 17 of the Mirana. The Anti-Mage and the Luna are relatively even. Even the Anti-Mage should be pretty far ahead, given how many ganks that have worked down here. And he just isn't super far ahead. Like, he should be... Yeah, he should be far further ahead than he is. He has gone for a Vanguard, which I'm not a fan of. He should be sprinting directly for that Battle Fury, I think. They need him to get some damage at least, and they need him to farm faster. They do not need him to be better defensively. They can't afford for him to be better defensively, because they're just not gonna have the time. Like, they need the damage, and they need the damage soon. This is not the hero to do that with, but, you know, you work with what you got. So... With regard to the the Shadow Shaman, I think he's scaling up very disably, and I think honestly this game I might have gone for Hex and then just scale up the Ether Shock, because if you identify that, you know, we're gonna need damage, soon, very soon. This Shackles is very good offensively and it's very bad defensively, because you don't want to bind yourself to an opponent and then have to stick around while, you know, the only thing you can do is give your Anti-Mage more room to escape. But you could do that with a Hex. Like, all you really need is for the Anti-Mage to get his blink off. And you can do that with just a Hex. So just, you know, switch between the Ether Shock and the Hex, and you get kind of the capabilities you need here, which is a little bit of disable enough to get away with the Hex, and then just the Ether Shock to do that little bit of damage, to kind of give you a little bit more damage reach, finish off opponents quicker, and, you know, just in general a little bit better. This is also a better farming ability, which also counts. Like, a lot of people say that supports should be looking for farm a lot, and I think those are pretty bad players. Like, certainly if there's room to farm, you should be farming no matter what you're playing. And, you know, kind of the thing here is that they've got 5 points on the Shadow Shaman dedicated to setting up kills. They've got 2 points on the Bane. Never said 2 points in Nightmare before you've maxed out everything else, by the way. Much better to have a 3rd point in Brain Stab at this point. They've got 2 points in this and a Harass ability here, and Enfeeble. So this is 2 different plans. The Enfeeble plan is a different plan from the Shackles plan. Okay, these do not mesh. Though, okay, you should have 1 point in Enfeeble, but you should definitely have more Brain Stab. Would be better. Just to get more nuke, because then, you know, the Anti-Mage isn't supplying much damage for kills at all, so you kinda need the damage here. This is a lot about hero knowledge, and, you know, if you're a newer player, this is just tough. Like, you can still outplay people, of course. You can still outplay people, but given that we're seeing an offensive Trilane here, I'm gonna assume this is at least like mid-level play. I don't think new players or low-level players would go for an offensive Trilane ever. Or maybe they would. Maybe they would. I don't know. But it's just not something you see very often at all. So just a bit of standoffishness here, and I think this actually... This kind of works out to the other team's favor. Another reason I need to talk about here is that this lane is kind of working out to the Dire's favor, is that the Luna is ranged. And this might seem trivial, but, you know, it's much harder for Anti-Mage to go in for last hits, because he has to get in Harass range, and he really doesn't want to do that. Unlike the other team, they don't have a tree. They don't have a guy that can just heal him up for free, and that hurts. It's gonna accumulate. They're gonna get off. Decent gank on the Luna there. Shadow Shaman used his Hex on a creep there. We didn't get to see it. I can actually just go back. This is, you know, supposed in some way to be about the Shadow Shaman a bit.
Radiant's top tower has
too little back. Yeah. Oh no, he used his shackles on this creep. Right.
Radiant's top tower is under attack.
So a little bit of a misclick. Not gonna end up costing him the kill. Putting down these wards, always in range of the tower, might be good. Here, I think maybe they were a little bit overkill. They could have waited until the creep wave was there. Could have set them a little bit further back, though. They did kind of block her off as well. But I think you could have gotten a kill. Aside from that, and what's going to end up happening here is the Treant's going to be able to farm these. And that's actually pretty bad. This Treant, if he gets up a Blink Dagger, that's gonna be pain. He's building up a mech, I think, and that's pretty bad here. Here it should be the Viper or the
Dire's
Darkseer,
structures
definitely.
are
And this
fortified.
guy should just get up or blink, because if he can blink initiate, then with this ability, then the other team is just screwed in a team fight.
Radiant's middle tower is under attack.
Yeah, just a little bit more standoff. We'll just do a little bit of a look-see again. The Radiant are ahead on XP, 2,000 ahead now. It's decent, like it's 17,000 against 15,000. So they are getting a little bit better XP. They have the more kills, it's easier to be ahead on XP that way. And the Dire is ahead on gold, quite more significantly ahead of gold, I think, with 1,500. So, what kind of items out? And looks like this Viper is following the standard direction, which is 2 Wraith Bands. This is absolutely hilariously bad, I think. Okay, it's not the worst thing you could buy, but I would like 1 Wraith Band maybe, and then build it into a Ring of Aquila, but don't go 2. Like, you can't even build this into anything else. You're not gonna build 2 Rings of Aquila, so why go for the second one? Like, there's no reason at all. Darkseer's got okay, he's building into a pipe, so they're just going tank. That's interesting. If they just go tank, all of them, then yeah, this is gonna be hard to kill anyone. She's got a drum up already. Let's compare that to the Anti-Mage. We don't know what he has. He has the Vanguard, and now he's building into the Battle Fury. And you know the Vanguard, it's good to get it early, but not always. Like, he's just gonna be able to not die even more, and he should be able to do that in a Trilane anyway. So if you're in a Trilane, I would have said never get the Darkseer. This is it's a pretty bad wall. I'm almost gonna guess that the Darkseer didn't know what it does, or he didn't have the mana to actually use the vacuum, which is unfortunate for him. But yeah, they're gonna get the Anti-Mage. Like, this is enough damage to finish it off, I think, despite his stupid regen. Then yeah, and they're just gonna get a kind of messy engagement here. Yeah, last damage. Good arrow, but didn't quite finish it. Bristleback's gonna make it in. Mirana can't tank super well.
Dire's middle tower is under attack.
3 and armor is gonna make it very hard for the Bristle to get through this. Go. So, and now things like it's relatively easy for these guys with all the damage to get kills. And let's just look at what this fight did. Oh, there we go. The XP advantage is dipping down from the 2,500 to now just about 7,500. And the gold is getting increasingly worse. Now it's 2,500 difference. They only lost the Viper and the Witch Doctor, and they frankly don't give a toss about the Witch Doctor. They do give a toss about the Viper, but the Luna survived and the Darkseer survived. That's good times for them. So basically what happened is they traded all their cores over here. They traded the hard carry, the mid, and the offlaner for a support and the mid. And that's a bad trade, really bad trade. And you know, you can't, yeah, you can avoid it, but it's hard to avoid, even with these like lanes. And now they're just gonna put the pressure on this tower down here. And that's another thing, like, they don't have anyone that's good at dragging it on. Like, these supports are early game and aggressive sort of pushy, ganky. Like, Bane is a very ganky support, and Shadow Shaman is a very push oriented and also ganking oriented support. Like, these two abilities are super good when you're ganking. They're slightly less good in team fights, but you know, if you can isolate someone, you can lock them down for 5 seconds plus 3.5 seconds. So 8.5 seconds you can basically lock someone in place as this guy, which is insane. Completely insane. Like, the stun on Mirana's arrow is insane at 5 seconds, so 8.5 seconds is... That's... If you're not killing someone with 8.5 seconds of lockdown, then you do not deserve that kill. And you know, Bristleback's a very mid-game oriented character. He falls off ridiculously in the late game, but he's... In the early game and the mid game, he's really, really hard to keep from doing stuff. And Mirana is just so starved at this point, 60 minutes in. She just has a Ring of Aquila and power threats. She's not going to be able to act as a damage dealer like this. Of course, right now she does have her DD runes, so perhaps they're going to be able to make something happen up here.
Tower is under attack.
Nope, they're going to be able to lose to Mirana, is what they're going to do. So that's unfortunate, but yeah. Yeah, I think this is just a misdraft. That's what I would say. The single biggest cause of this is the way the lanes panned out, and you know, the lack of cohesion in this team. If they'd had a more fighty carry, if they'd had like Juggernaut, just to say the best example I can come up with here would be like a Juggernaut or a Razor or something. I don't know. Juggernaut is a bit awkward with Nightmare. Like Bane meshes up with very few heroes very well because of the way this Nightmare works. Mirana's the biggest one. Like, you really want a Mirana in lane, and if you have a Mirana, there's no reason not to lane these two together. I think that's just so strong. Or there's reasons not to, but it's just so strong. Like, most of the time you'll want to lane them together, so that the Mirana doesn't have to rotate, the Bane doesn't have to rotate in order to get ganks and use their combo. So, yeah, if they had a more early game oriented guy here, like a Slark or Juggernaut, or say, I'm kind of blanking here, maybe a Skywrath could be good. Yeah, something like that. And you know, again, like instead of the Shadow Shaman, if they had someone with a longer range initiation, that was a pointless death ward. He just wasted that completely. Like the anti-mage, every method of escaping there. But they're just gonna run them down now, and yeah, they're just, you know. Mirana had just died, so they know she isn't probably in range to come in, and they can just barrel down now with the survivability from the tree and the Witch Doctor heal. Like, they're gonna be able to do damn near whatever they want because they just have so much tank, and they just barrel down with 4 here. And even though did Luna die? No, okay, she's probably just been back to shop. Even though they don't have the carry here, they can still do a ton of damage. Yeah, it's just. Yeah, they can just walk it in. Anti-mage is honestly pretty weak in the current meta. Pretty weak. He's only really good in the super late game, and even in the super late game there's better carries for fighting. So he's a sort of weird playstyle. Yeah, this Darkseer is just. This wall is just super strange. Like, they're throwing out these really bad ultimates, and still they can just kind of do what they want, which should tell you a bit about where this game is going. They don't even need to rely on the Death Ward and the Wall of Replica to team fight. They're doing good fights even without those. So it's looking grim. It's looking grim. 7,500 lead now at 20 minutes. That's a big lead. That's really, really big. And they have 4,000 XP lead as well. So it's just this better team composition, this better, more cohesive game plan. It's not very complex. They have good sustain support, good damage dealers and cores, and you know, that's just it. It's just not. If they had been okay, what could give problems to these guys? I think if you had like a lifestealer as a hard carry instead, that would be a problem for this lineup because it's very reliant on magical damage in the early game. Like until this Luna and this Viper gets a good right click, which now that they're picking up their Yashas, they're starting to get pretty good right clicks. They can't really do much against a raged lifestealer. That would be an example of something that would be a problem. Like, of course, there's no lineup that can handle every other lineup. There's lineups that are very strong because they have internal cohesion. Here we see the second time he uses these Serpent Wards here, and I think this is way too far forward. You actually need to protect these a bit. You need the creep wave to grab the aggro, and you need to prevent your opponents from farming them. They get 26 gold apiece at level 1, so you do not want them to just get that gold. There's 9 of them, so that's almost like 250 gold. Like, it's pretty significant, so you don't want to just give them that. Oh, it looks like it might actually be a lot more than 26 apiece. It looks like it's random, so it's 26 to 40 probably. So almost a creep, like 9 creeps. You're giving them like a big creep wave if you let them farm those wards. So be careful not to do that. Going into magic boots makes sense on this guy. He's very mana hungry. Another weak point of his.
Much appreciated.
Yeah, just a little bit more. Like, they're kind of he's moving right, he's sticking to his carry here, and the anti-mage still needs the protection. That's the dumb thing here. They can still like kind of get the jump on the anti-mage. Else, you know, if he had some points in Ether Shock, he could stack these camps and then just use Ether Shock and farm them up and get some more efficiency with that. But they just didn't. They can't really do that. Go Treant ultimate and combo with the Witch Doctor. So that was a pretty simple combo. Let's just take a look at that, because it's always good to just note what's happening and what the combo relies on. So this is gonna be Treant's ultimate Overgrowth, linked into a there's an animation box, so we'll just yeah, go further. Oh, god damn it! So it still there. Still there. This is really weird, so I am just gonna go like this. There we go. Is it off? Nope, it's not. What the shit? Okay, so let's just go way back. That is, it's off. Good, good. Finally, it's off. So we'll just. Sorry about that, but it's just having the anti-mage look like he's sleeped all the way is very bad. So that's the fight. They're coming down here. Yeah, good, good, good.
Then.
Okay, gonna go around here. Okay, they actually wasted the Moonlight Shadow there. That's pretty bad.
Much appreciated.
They're using Moonlight Shadow right, by the way. They're using it to set up kills, and that's one of the really good uses for it. Yes, they're using Treant's invisibility here, just do a War Gain Overgrowth, and then Death Ward. So Overgrowth goes into place, the Death Ward comes in and does the damage, while the Viper also has 3 shots. And that's enough to earn them 2 really easy kills. The Anti-Mage is really hard to kill, so at least, you know, he's still going. But the problem is, even if they can't kill the Anti-Mage, they can still push in towers, and the more towers they push in, the harder it's gonna be for the Anti-Mage to farm. That's how you play against the defensive playstyle. That's a really good arrow, but it's not gonna be enough, is it? Yeah, it is. Okay. Maybe. Oh, that's... Yeah. So that's a good arrow, good kill. I like the use of Fiend Script. General, really good. They also managed to get the Darkseer somewhere, so that's a really big pickoffs. Getting the Luna there especially is really good, but they're still like so far ahead. Still the 7-5, and the gap's not closing. So, and they're losing towers now. Despite having the Shadow Shaman, they have the better pushing hero of these lineups. Maybe Luna as good as Shadow Shaman, and like
Radiant's bottom tower has fallen.
Witch Doctor's decent because of his healing. He can just heal up the creep wave and let it sustain a bit more. That's kind of a... I think that's the weakest form of a push, but it is push, so you count it. Though of course the Shadow Shaman hasn't had any levels either. That's kind of... Yeah, you do need those levels to push really effectively with just the Shadow Shaman. That's kind of the thing. So I would say, if you want to run this guy, make sure you have damage that can follow up to your initiation. That's kind of the thing. He's one of those initiators that's really good at locking down and doesn't have any damage. It's kind of like Clockwork, except Clockwork can actually kill people when he initiates. And he's a lot better at initiating, because that's the only thing he does. This guy is a lot better at supporting and, you know, pushing than Clockwork. So that was a bad comparison by me. So this situation is pretty good for them. Let's take a look at what's happening here. They've got their 4 of them down here. They're looking to fight, and these are all heroes that want to fight at this point. So that's really good. They've got a sorry. They've got a Fiend's Grip initiation on Treant. Not ideal. Treant's super tanky, especially for this point in the game. He's got so much HP. He's got nearly double the Marauder. More than he's got double the Shadow Shaman. But yeah, they've got an initiation here. They've got the 4 heroes that want to fight. They should fight here, and this is, you know, they're fighting being 4 guys, but you know, they can kind of afford to trade here, because what it's doing is creating space. It's creating space for this guy. So right now the important thing is he needs to finish up his Battle Fury. He needs to get his farm on big time, And getting him farm now relies on getting him space and making sure the opponents do not have opportunities to just picking off at their leisure. So one thing we might have been missing earlier is some more rotation for the Bane and the Shadow Shaman. Even though there was so much pressure on the... they couldn't really, because there's so much pressure with the Trilane versus Trilane that they're kind of bound in lane. So that's a bit unfortunate. But this situation is really good for them. Really good for them. Let's see how this fight pans out. There's the vacuum being completely wasted and the wall being completely wasted again. The Luna and the Viper, however, doing all the damage they need to do. And there's all the things. They just lose the Witch Doctor to Bristleback. Bristleback wisely turning his back there. That's something I want to show really fast. Bristleback, one of the heroes I really enjoy, so I want to remark on this really fast. We're just going to watch this. So, the Bane has already died, Shadow Shaman and Luna is over here on Mirana. They're just gonna get knocked down. The Viper hits so hard right now. Yeah, Bristleback has his back turn, and this is gonna trigger extra Skrill sprays. And they just hit everything, so he actually did quite a lot of damage there. Among others to the Darkseer almost died as well. He was just like, I think that's maybe 2 or 3 quill sprays. That's not almost, but it's pretty close to dying there. But the Answer Mage got a lot of farm there. He got like 2 creep waves of farm and some stuff there. So if they'd been able to trade more effectively, if they'd been getting a better fight there, attacking up this cliff maybe a bit much, like you could wait here, just go for the standoff, maybe, or you know, get the Bristleback in position before you just get the Bristleback in here before you set up the Fiend script. And they have wisened up to the Moonlight Shadow and put down these sentry wards, so that's going to be a little bit less effective. It has been doing work for them though. It's kind of the one thing that's keeping them in the game a little bit, or not that they are in the game, but I think it's looking very lost at the moment. But it's you know, it's not completely lost because those Moonlight Shadow rotations have really been paying off. Have been doing something for one of the lanes, even though it did kind of give the Mirana in my opinion. She has her Yasha now, but in comparison to Luna, or the Viper, which the other mate has, is Manta Star, so that's a good comparison right there. He's basically got a double as expensive item. He also has a Vanguard, so he's a lot more farmed than Mirana at the moment. And that Manta Star is just going to be so strong this game. Super strong.
Oh, look at it go!
Nice attempt at an arrow. But I don't think they can really go for arrow pick-offs right now on this group coming in. Answer Mage being very brave about farming here. And of course, whenever I say brave, what I really mean is borderline stupid or definitely taking a risk.
Thanks.
I really like the wall coverage from the dire side here. It's really good. Yes, another completely nonsensical wall there, and a vacuum on absolutely nothing. So not super good. They still get the pick off on the Shadow Shaman, so there's that. You know, hanging out here, hanging out in this area when you know they're pushing in, then hanging out in this area is pretty pointless. Like, you don't need to deny this area from them. You need to deny this area, and this area is a much easier area to defend. Like, they have to go up the hill where they can't see, and there's a choke pole, and you know, yeah, we want to fight up here. It's pretty simple. So yeah. Clips absolutely wrecking them there, and those big, few well-applied big ultis just gonna kill off 2 really important heroes for them there. Bristleback's gonna go down despite being very tanky. They can just push now. So this is looking pretty much like GG.
Radiant's middle tower has fallen.
It seems like a lot of the videos I'm doing these days, I'm just kinda concluding that the lanes were bad. I feel like that's happened a few times here. Not the Darkseer one though, but the tiny one surely. Tiny one, the lanes were really bad. I'm trying to think.
Dire's top tower is under attack.
Yeah, it's honestly like, I don't know if you could expect much more from the heroes given the way these lanes were going. This is just sort of a draft countering. I don't really feel like anyone on either on the Radiant side here really played their role super badly. Like there wasn't anyone. Even if we look at the kills, death assists, even if like the 0-5 Bane or 0-4 Shadow Shaman here, that's not why they lost. Like it's not. They couldn't really do much better. They're super fighty. Like it would have been pretty good to if they had some sort of damage dealer in lane with them. They could have certainly made something happen. But it's just pretty hard when when they had to rotate the Mirana in to get the damage. You know, that's kind of what happened. Like the Answer Mage couldn't supply the damage they needed. And now he's starting to get there. Now he's got his Battle Fury, he's working on his mana style. He's gotten a Vanguard. Again, I've harped about this. I don't think they can afford the Vanguard at this point, but yeah. It's also way better when you have really high amounts of attack incoming. I don't think you really have that here. Yeah. So they're gonna come in. Eclipse just gonna wreck. So yeah. Oh, they managed to get 2 good kills there, but they traded 5 man and they're gonna trade their mid towers. So that's kinda where it's at, just a little bit too late. Despite, you know, still the Starkseer is just playing monumentally worse than the one I reviewed there. He's just never hit a good wall that I've seen. He just kind of throws them out, constantly misses his vacuums as well. Like, it's not that difficult, I don't understand. But he just seems like he doesn't know what his hero does. Yeah. Death Walls have been on point though, and that's just kind of doing enough for them. Like just the treant with the setup for the Death Ward and the thing there. It's like this team, the Bane and the Shadow Shaman, are kind of all set up. They're all there. They're really good at setting up the damage, and I've said this a few times already. But they're really good to set up the damage from say Mirana. Mirana's really good in combo with them. But if you had another really good damage dealer, like say Razor would be good. Or Juggernaut would be good. Not really with the Bane, but with the Shadow Shaman, Juggernaut would be good instead of the Answer Mage. I'm trying to think of what else there is. Somehow I'm just kind of blanking out a bit. Ursa would be good. Bristleback's not good, because Bristlebacks just need way more time. Like, he needs like a sustained engagement. He needs like 15 seconds or so. And he, you know, he can have fired off 5 Quill Spray stacks, and then he'll get up to the to the max damage of Quill Spray, which is what he really needs. So maybe with a better damage dealer off lane, or you know, probably a better damage dealer for the Answer Mage, or with more defensive supports instead of these two, then this could have been a viable game for them, like a Dazzle instead of the Bane would have been very reasonable. Now they're gonna initiate on the Bristleback. This is normally a really bad idea, but here it's just gonna work out because they just don't care anymore. They're so farmed that he can't do much. See, Fiend Script and an arrowhead and everything, and the Viper just doesn't care. And they're just gonna turn around and kill the Bane. So yeah, this is lost. This is super lost. Answer Mage doing some desperation farm. Still not on his mana style. Yeah.
Radiant's middle tower has fallen.
So you could also take this as a really good lesson in what you want to do with an aggro try, and that is if you have this really late game carry. Like if you have a Naga Siren, an Answer Mage, or Spectre, someone who doesn't like to fight early on. Then you can do an aggro try and be really good.
Radiant's Ancient is under attack. Dire's structure.
Not super much about Shadow Shaman this time around, but you know, just looking at the replay, I saw an opportunity to talk about something I haven't talked about a lot, and I think it's also, you know, in this case, there really wasn't very many opportunities for the Shadow Shaman to do anything much worthwhile. Like, it was pretty pretty grim. The lanes were pretty grim. Like just the amount of firepower they were up against compared to with what they had was just not really there. Like Shadow Shaman in general, I don't think he's very good in a try versus try situation, simply because at the lower levels Hex is not very good and Shackle can be interrupted. So if there's 3 heroes there, of course you're only gonna lock down 1. So the other 2 can just stun you. Like if you lock down the Luna, which is what you want to do, the Witch Doctor can just throw out his casket and stun you. And if you lock down the Witch Doctor, the Luna can just use Lunar Beam and stun you, and then the Shackle is interrupted. So, you know, this is just pretty much the worst case scenario for a Shadow Shaman. He's a pretty good solo laner. Maybe solo off lane against the Trilane would be worse for him, but in this case he's just super inefficient. So that's kind of what I see happen there. I hope you enjoyed this. Yeah, as usual, the directions for sending in replays will be in the description for the video. Consider subscribing and liking if you enjoyed this video. And I'm out.